Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today we're going to talk about a dream that I had. Not I have a dream, but I had a dream. And in this dream, I was in a park-like environment with two male friends, and one of them walked away without saying goodbye. And then he came back and he said something that really pushed my buttons. And in that instant, I got so upset, so angry. I think if you would have taken my blood pressure, it would have been up. And so when I woke up in the morning, I was still angry. It took a while to shake off that feeling. But what it did do is it made me realize that no matter how far we've come, no matter how much we've worked on ourselves, there are people out there that are on a different path. There are people out there that can push our buttons. There are situations that still affect us in a negative way, perhaps. But the good news is, it's also a barometer of how far you've come. When you're thrown into a situation and you can feel yourself de-escalating it without getting angry, without raising your voice, and not doing it in a way where you have to force yourself. You have to tie yourself down to do it, but that it just comes naturally. So in doing that, you can see how far you've come. And I think an important part of that is taking a minute to just breathe and taking the time to let God direct you in how to handle it. I'm going to give you a little example. Yesterday, I ended up calling Amazon. After I explained my whole situation to this lady, it was almost like I didn't say anything to her. She was reverting back to, she would contact the seller and blah, 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 whatever she was saying or doing. And I was trying to explain to her all of that has already been done. And although the old me would have probably raised my voice and gotten pretty angry with her, but the good news is I didn't even have the desire to do that. I was able to just talk to her in a normal tone and de-escalate the situation. And ultimately, I realized that she was not the best person suited for my situation. So I thanked her and hung up, called back later, took care of it in 10 minutes. And so that made me realize just how far we've come. And I think as situations come up and as people come around us that can still push our buttons, or situations that bring out the worst in us, and you will find that you don't react the same as you used to. That's kind of how you can judge how far you've come, how far you've changed. And what's really interesting that I observed is you can get the same things done, if not more, and not feel like you've burnt your bridges without being so abrupt about it. You can handle the same thing in a soft, kind manner. Now, when we take into consideration people that push our buttons, that's when, and if it's avoidable, you have to make the decision if these people should still be in your life or if you want to keep them at arm's length. I personally don't burn bridges unless I have to, but there are people that I've kind of cut back on. For example, someone called me yesterday and was kind of getting on me about not letting them know when this situation was taking place. And I thought, I tried to just kind of tap dance around it, and finally I said, something like, it's not my job to call everybody. But I guess she felt she had to release her anger in missing this event. And so she blamed me. Anyway, it was interesting to me. There was kind of like that yin and yang thing about, and I realized that I was kind of hovering over the situation from a higher place. And I did want to almost lose my temper and say certain things, but I would have regretted it later. But the good news is I didn't really feel like losing my temper. So when you start to see yourself make positive changes, when you see yourself handling the same situation with a little more grace, then you know you're evolving. And if you're not there yet, don't worry about it. As you take steps, eventually you will start to observe these changes within yourself. And it's not anything that you make yourself do. It's that you will see with the things that come naturally are not handled the same way that you would have handled them in the past. Now, something that was really getting to me, and I didn't realize it was, is the late night news. I was watching the news about everything that goes on in this country that I'm sure we're all aware of. I mean, you can't avoid it. And it was really bothering me. A few things. I think what really bothered me is how certain people are being treated. I am a humanitarian, and I would never, ever treat someone in that manner. And I don't want to see it, but I had to tell myself and realize that I would never do it. It's not me doing it. I don't need to feel guilty about it. What I need to do is detach myself so I can pray about it, because that's the best strength I have. That's the best tool I have, because if I sit there and let my emotions run wild and get all worked up about what's going on, when there is nothing I can do about it except pray. And so to pray in your most efficient way is to be at peace, to calm yourself down. A girl came over to visit last Sunday, and she told me she wanted to start her own business. So she joined some groups to do a little bit of networking. And she said these groups, the first thing they taught her was stop watching the news. And I found that so interesting, because more and more people are saying that. I think to have a peace of mind, you almost have to. You almost have to detach yourself from it. But I also realize and understand that you want to be and need to be informed in what's going on around you. But I think the difference is we don't need to be saturated in it. So the other night, I was looking at some news on my phone, and I felt myself get really worked up. It was starting to affect me quite a bit, actually. And to be honest with you, I think that's what prompted this dream I had the other night. But I put my phone down, and I decided to somewhat step away from it. And I realized then and there that they're right. These people are right. To keep yourself at arm's length from the news, from what's going on. Because the realization that even though we would not do some of the things that are being done, that they still affect us. So we need to separate our emotions from it. But we need to keep praying. I believe that's the strongest tool we have. And I'm not going to get into the protesting all that, because that's a strong tool as well. But that's getting a little too political for the purpose of this podcast. But we do need to keep strong, keep steadfast, but always remember that none of this is our fault. I think the key here is, and the secret is that no matter what's going on around us, is to always enjoy our life, to keep our world as happy as it can be. I was telling my caregiver that it's very important that we enjoy life. And she said, well, how do you enjoy it? And I said, well, there's a country western song that's titled, Live Like You Were Dying. I said, in other words, say you had 2 days left to live. What would you want to do? What would you be doing? And she said, I'd like to be with Brad Pitt. Okay, you don't even know what kind of person he is. And she says, what do I care? I only have 2 days left to live. I thought, well, and it's true. It's like no matter what goes on around us, no matter how sorry you feel for people, just remember that you wouldn't do it and you didn't do it. And so it's okay to keep enjoying your life, keep enjoying where you're at, and keep improving yourself. Because regardless of what's going on, we've got to stay focused on who we are and what we're doing, but yet keep praying for those that are affected in a negative way. And one thing, and I have stressed this in different episodes, about being kind. Try to do at least one kind thing a day, even if it's just for one person. I know I shared with you a couple episodes ago about how the pastor at that church saying 2 words to me really ultimately changed the direction for probably the next few years for me. Instead of shifting gears and changing paths like I had planned to, just the fact that he said those 2 words meant everything to me in terms of that decision. So do what you can. If it's with one person, that's great. If it's with the whole community, that's great. But we all need to do what we can do to make this world just a little bit better. And it starts with being a kind person. But as time goes on, we're going to talk a little bit more about the climate of what's going on around us. It's almost hard to balance that out. And we need to continue to grow, continue to be happy, continue to be our best self, continue to live our best life, continue to make the right decisions, regardless of what's going on around us. Because things are coming at us so fast and furious every day. But when you compartmentalize it, when you put all the stuff that's happening, and each thing has a different name, but let's face it, it's all the same. It's just big changes that are happening. So if you put those in one compartment and keep yourself and your walk in another compartment, it's easier to look at the 2 things in a totally separate manner. And then the third thing is, what can I do about it? In the spiritual world, you can pray about it. In the physical world, that's up to you, whatever you feel is right. But the main thing is that we separate all the noise that's happening right now. We separate it from who we are as our best self, as a human being that doesn't judge, that is kind, that loves, as a human being who is happy. But with everything going on around us and everything pulling on us, I realize it can be a challenge. And that's why it's important to compartmentalize all of this so you can look at it from a distance, basically. Because as I said, there's so much going on a daily basis. that it's gotten to the point where it doesn't even matter what it's called. So that definitely needs to be in one compartment. And you, your bright self, needs to be in another compartment so you can continue to walk in your best life, being the best that you can be, being a good human being. So if things are getting to you enough to where they're affecting you in your dreams or affecting your sleep, then it's time to take a step back and think about, do I need to cut back on the news? But remember, in everything that's going on, the good news is that you are becoming your best self. And when you feel that you're handling a situation differently than you would have in the past, then you know that those changes are developing within you. You don't have to force it, it just comes naturally. And that is very exciting. So as my caregiver said, to enjoy life, we don't need to be with Brad Pitt, but we can just simply be our best selves. With that being said, I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening. God bless. Bye-bye.